Okay, there we go. If you would like to open up with a welcome, Dr. Ravis.
Good evening, class, and welcome to week 2 of Mail 601. And we are excited to be back with you. And for those of you who've stayed with us, we've lost a few students this first week, unfortunately, and that's sad. And I hope they get to come back into the program at some point. You know, we try to tell you as much as possible this is an accelerated program, and we do that not to scare you, but to just let you know that you are going to have to make a time commitment. And I hope we've got everybody with us that's going to stay with us. As a result of a few drops, I think both Dr. Stedman and myself have had to go in and reconfigure our Zoom teams. So take a look at that. You have some new Zoom team members, and I collapsed mine down to 3 teams as well, Dr. Stedman. So
Yeah.
But you're going to be fine, and you will get used to the pace. And we know we're pushing you out of your comfort zone a little bit, but going into leadership, you are going to be out of a comfort zone unless you're already in a leadership position within your school. So, Dr. Stedman, do you have any opening comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to let them know that, and again, when Dr. Ravis and I talk to you or share things with you, please, it's not, I don't want you to take it as coming across in a punitive way or in a demeaning way or whatever. It's just, we know what it's going to take for you to be successful in the program and for you to be able to do the quality work that we're going to expect out of you. We do have access of going in and looking in Blackboard at all times, and we know when you're in it, we know when you're not in it. And I'm just going to say, it doesn't mean you weren't working, but many times it's a sign to us that you are not working if we see that you have not been in Blackboard for a good amount of time. Most of you were in it over the weekend, and you should have been. You should have been in it the weekend, and you should have been. I mean, this is a fast-paced course. But if last Thursday, when we had our Zoom class coaching session, and you haven't picked up anything since last Thursday, you can't do that and be successful in the program. I'm just being transparent with you. Am I right, Dr. Revis?
That's exactly right. You've got to find your rhythm, and everybody has different
Right.
schedules, and you have a full-time job. But guys, you're going to have to carve out some time every day to spend in this program.
That's important every day. It's not a
Yeah.
once a week thing. You can't just pick it up on Saturday and think I'm going to have my work ready on Sunday. You won't survive that way.
No. And you'll find it. You'll find your
Right.
time. You've got 3 semesters. That's it.
Right.
It's very compacted, but it's only 3 semesters, and you'll
Right.
be.
Yeah, right. And again, that was not meant, it's just an observation, and we want you to start off on the right foot so that you'll end. We want you to start right so you'll end right. That's the way we're going to put it. Just very quickly, let's look at the agenda for this evening, and we're going to try our best to make sure that we cover these areas. Dr. Revis is going to do a review of task 1, and with that, she has a PowerPoint, and then we have a document that we're going to share with you at the end. I would assume, Dr. Revis, after you've said everything, we'll pull that document up that you said these are things that you've got to know, or you let me know when you want it. And then you need to know that beginning today, will always review and go over a task, but we will always be introducing a new task. Now, if you'll see down at the bottom where I've highlighted, and I don't want you to get confused with this, but you need to understand that, let's say, just like this week, this is the first time, this is the only time with the AAPSL that you will have just one task due. Now, this week, by Sunday night, you don't have to wait until Sunday night, and I would, if it's ready, then send it to Dr. Revis and me. That gives us time to look at it and to spend more time with it. But your task one of the AAPSL that Dr. Revis is going to review again in just a few minutes is going to be due no later than 9:00 p.m. on Sunday, this Sunday night. But I want you to notice next week after that. Not this week, but next week, the 31st. That's the next Sunday night. This task one that we are reviewing and giving you comments on the 31st, you will submit it to us for a final grade. Now, when you submit that to us for a final grade, I want you to look what's under green. Task one will be submitted for a final grade on the 31st, but look what else will happen on the 31st. Task two that I'm going to talk about tonight will be submitted for peer and instructor review for us to give comments. And then the very next week, February the 7th, task two will be submitted for evaluation, but task three will be submitted for review. After this week, you will always submit a task for final evaluation, but at the same time, you will be submitting the next one for review. That's why we said you've got to get your pace and how you're going to work this into your schedule and what you're going to do. You can find this posted under week 2 as well, so that you can look at it on your own at your own leisure sometime. In addition to that, we're going to introduce you to task 2, and if you notice, task 1 only had one prompt, and Dr. Revis is going to go over that one prompt. But when we get to task 2, it will have 2 prompts. I'm going to talk about prompt 1, and Dr. Revis will chime in with whatever she needs to say, and then Dr. Revis is going to talk about prompt 2, and then I'll chime in with whatever I need to say. We're going to introduce the peer review process, but we're not going to go into great detail. Dr. Hamilton is going to do a great presentation on this as well on Thursday night, but we wanted to go ahead and introduce it to you so you would be familiar and understand what Dr. Hamilton will be talking about when we get there. Dr. Revis is going to introduce the peer review process and go over the template and the forms and things. Then I'm going to actually go into Blackboard and show you what you do with it. And then we'll end with questions and answers. That's pretty much how, that's how today should unfold. Any questions, anything, Dr. Revis, at this point?
No, that looks good. I think I want to start with the PLC PowerPoint very quickly.
Okay, let me, professional, okay, there you go.
Okay, and so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I do want to draw your attention to some things that you hopefully will find useful in your research section. So
just tell me when you want me to go to the next frame.
Okay, next frame. What is a PLC? And again, just springboarding off of what I said last week, the very essence of this professional learning community is that we're focusing on a commitment of learning for each student. And we are heavily grounded in DeFore's work and his model. Others have joined in with him over the years, but it's all about a commitment to student learning. And we call lots of meetings PLCs, and they're not really PLCs unless your focus is on the commitment to the learning of all students. So on the next frame, there are 3 big ideas in this model, and it's a focus on learning for all students. There's a collaboration, a culture of collaboration that team members will exhibit and will handle themselves collaboratively during the meeting. And there's a focus on results, meaning that we're looking at some data, some hard data. So in the next slide, There are three big questions with DeFore's model, and that is, number one, identifying what we want students to learn, how will we know when they've learned it, and then how will we respond when students experience difficulty in their learning. And I'm sure many of you have even taken DeFore's PLCs before, and you know this, but this is the very essence of what we're going to be doing in your task one, or AAPSL evidence. Okay, on the next slide, when you are pulling together teams of teachers, collaboration just doesn't come naturally. I wish it did, but it doesn't always come naturally. And we have to build a trust among our team members. And when we do that, then team members will naturally become more collaborative. Now, let me say here that unless you are already a school administrator or perhaps an instructional facilitator or a literacy coach, or maybe even a grade level or department chair, you maybe have never facilitated a PLC with your peers. And yes, that may be a little threatening to you. We're pushing you out of that comfort zone into a leadership role. And we have to make sure that we are seeing evidence of your leadership in this PLC. For some of you, this may be your very first leadership experience, and that's great. You're going to be a little nervous, but we have lots of resources that can help you get started and guide you through this process. So in the next slide, let's talk a little bit about how we operate as a PLC. One of the things that you're going to do in your first meeting this week, if you've not already done it, is you're going to agree to operate, of course, collaboratively, but you're going to establish what we call norms. How are we going to make decisions and come to a consensus? How will we agree to disagree professionally? How will we agree to communicate? Deciding when to meet, and this last one gets overlooked quite a bit. What information within our PLC is confidential, and what information do we want to share or can we share outside of the group? And that's another norm that you would need to discuss in your first meeting.
And
So,
Dr. Revis, also
yes.
under the AAPSL template and materials, there is a great article in there on establishing norms.
Exactly. And I think on the next slide is also, it's a PLC handbook, and it's listed in your materials under weeks 1 and 2. There are many, many materials already put up there for you to use. This particular book talks about establishing norms, some activities that you can use. You don't necessarily have to use an activity, but it talks about how you go about establishing those norms and how you go about having a record keeper, et cetera, et cetera. And so on the next slide, remember that we are going to focus during this PLC, not your first meeting, but in subsequent meetings, you're going to be results oriented. You're going to look and pull actual school student achievement data. And you're going to set some short-term goals and long-term goals and hopefully examine some results. So very quickly in the next slide, if you were doing this authentically as a school principal, you always start at the top looking at your current student data. What's your current state? And that's what you're going to be doing in task 2 a little bit. And then you're going to develop strategies, implement those strategies, examine the impact, and then apply new knowledge. That is the cycle of continuous improvement. That's why we're doing this AAPSL series of tasks, starting with organizing your PLC in your first task. And then the second task that we're going to introduce tonight is going to be about examining your current state of student learning. On the next slide, just some, I guess, some warnings, potential barriers here. All teams are potentially dysfunctional. And I love that quote from Dr. Stone. And they become dysfunctional when we have a lack of norms, a lack of team goals, a lack of trust, a lack of communication, and a lack of focus on student learning outcomes.
And
then
that's your responsibility as a leader to hopefully not let this happen.
Exactly. And then the last slide, just remember that PLCs stand for Professional Learning Communities, and professional learning for educators is an outgrowth of these collaborative meetings. And then the very last slide is a series of different resources that you can use. Some of these are posted already for you in weeks 1 and 2, and some are not. So that's a quick review and overview of PLCs and hopefully some ideas to get you started in your first meeting. Okay, now I think, Dr. Stedman, I think I do want to look at that, the look-fors, if we can, for task 1.
And I'm trying to come out of this thing. I'm still learning how to operate all this stuff.
Oh, you're doing marvelously. I think it may be right down there, that Word. Let's see if it's that Word document.
Yeah.
Dr. Revis, I have a question. Likely for the PLC that I'm going to be doing, it would have to occur virtually. I just want to be sure that it's okay to like have everything set up virtual, plan for everything to be virtual.
Yes.
Just because I run a virtual school, but then I'm partnering with a middle college. And they have teachers that work on the college campus, but also work in our district. So people are all over the place.
Gina, thank you for bringing that up. My expectation is that most of these meetings are going to be virtual. So what you would want to do now, if you can capture the whole meeting, fine, but you would at least need to capture a screenshot of the meeting. And then, of course, you're going to be the presenter in the meeting, and we would want to see a slideshow that you are sharing or the documents that you share. Those would be your evidences. But yeah, I'm assuming that most people are virtual at this point, or at least a hybrid model, and that most of your PLCs are going to have to be virtual. But thank you. Okay, when I am scoring the task 1, this came directly from Dr. Stedman's document that he pulled up last week about how to get started in task 1. The first thing I'm going to look at is your school profile. And this is just a story of your school. I'm going to look to see that you have some good information so that I can get a good picture of your school and of the students and of your community and of the teachers and educators who work in that school. Secondly is a section on your PLC research. I'm going to look there that you have at least 3 resources, a minimum of 3 resources, distinctly different resources, I might add. And through that narrative mini research section, I'm going to want to see the following questions answered. What is a PLC? What does a good PLC look like? How is a good PLC conducted? What are the norms, etc.? So you're going to weave in the answers to these questions in your little mini lit review. Any questions about those first 2 things? Then I want to see a section where you list your PLC members and you talk about why you chose them. Now, you can use pseudonyms if you wish for the names. That's not a problem. But I want to know why you chose those people and what strengths they're bringing to the PLC and what are their educational credentials. You know, you may have, you may select your literacy coach. And of course, that literacy coach has a broad-based perspective of literacy within your school. You may have an administrator on your PLC, but I would expect to see some grade level teachers. You may have a school counselor. That's up to you, however you've done it. but I do want to know who they are, what their strengths, what their credentials are, and why you chose them. And the next thing is conducting your first PLC meeting. From some of the questions that I've gotten from some of the class members, I think you're thinking that you're doing too much in the PLC. This first meeting, I guess I could characterize it by being an organizational meeting. Because all you do is talk about what your vision and purpose is. Now, your purpose is not that it's just a requirement of Gardner-Webb University, even though that's probably first and foremost in your mind. But our purpose here is to examine student performance data and to identify areas of growth. And you will want to establish your norms. I would expect to have an agenda in your artifacts. But basically, your first meeting is just an organizational meeting. You may talk about what data you're going to examine and just brainstorm about that a little bit, but you don't discuss data. You don't do a data dive in this first meeting. It's just an organizational meeting.
Dr. Revis,
Sure.
how often are we supposed to have the PLC meetings? Is it biweekly, weekly, monthly?
Well, actually, you're doing one this week, and then you've got to do another one next week where you dive into that data. Now, how often are you going to do it? It will be quite a bit at the onset. Then you will go weeks to not have one. It just
Okay, thank you.
what task you're doing. I think I told somebody wrong today that it'll be a couple weeks. Actually, you'll need to do one this week and then another one next week.
So, Dr. Revis, as I told Dr. Stedman, I still haven't received permission from my principal that I can start a PLC this quarter. So the first PLC meeting must take place before the submission on Sunday?
It's supposed to, Shantae.
Yeah.
It's supposed to. Do what I ask you to do, and you've got my phone number. Call me tomorrow, okay?
Okay, I did send an email to the person that you told me to send it to.
Okay.
So, okay.
When you hear back,
Yeah, guys.
get back with us, okay?
Okay.
Guys, right now schools are, they're in turmoil, and they're going virtual. They're coming back from virtual. I mean, it's just a mess. And you may not get to. You may have to talk to an assistant principal.
And that's what I just told her. Shantae, who is your clinical coach one? Have you heard from them yet?
Yes, it is Dr. Talent.
Dr. Talent, and you will communicate with Dr. Talent. Go ahead and communicate with her and ask her, and she'll help you in the process. She knows what to do.
Yes, I did let her know today that I haven't received the email, but I will keep her posted.
Okay, and she will be good to help. She'll follow up with it.
Okay, thank you.
You've got a strong one.
Oh, do I? Okay.
Yes, a very strong person to help you.
I have one question, Dr. Revis.
Sure.
In reference to the PLC, if you already hold a leadership role and we have our agendas, weekly, that's already created, and normally I speak already, do I just need to have a separate agenda that kind of outlines, how I would run it, and is it okay that it has other people speaking, or do I need to make one completely separate from our normal agenda?
Well, I think in that situation, you would need, if you're doing it during a PLC meeting that's already been convened, we like to see that you do a separate one, but we know how things are. We'll work with you however we can work with you. But I would want to see a PLC meeting agenda that just focuses on what you're doing. Now,
Okay.
Stephen, chime in here.
Okay. Yes. You'll need to show the leadership in whatever the information you're sharing with us needs to show that you are the leader in that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm going to move on, and if there are other questions, we'll try to answer them before the end of the class session. The next section that we're going to have are your references, and you now know how to reference everything. All of your works that you're going to use in your PLC research, mini research, are going to be there. at least. And there may be some other things that should be cited in your reference section. And then you'll have your appendices. For this first task, I'm going to look to see that you've sent an email and that the email has come back from your principal or administrator allowing you to start the PLC. I would want to see your meeting agenda, meeting minutes, sign-in roster. Again, I would want to see a screenshot of your virtual meeting. I would want to see a slideshow, what you're presenting, anything like that. Okay? And then, make sure, go back and make sure you follow the template with the correct headings and subheadings. That's key. And you're going to be fine.
Dr. Ravis, I have a question.
Sure.
If we're doing virtually, how do we use the sign-in sheets?
Let me think.
There is actually a print off if you record the session and you would want to record the session, you actually have the availability. It shows you who attends your sessions. But if you're doing it virtually, you may just have to indicate that the following people were present, and we're okay with that. We understand.
You can just indicate that on your agenda if you want to as well.
Yeah.
Members present, members absent.
And we have, when we do PD, we have people put their names in the chat, and then you can print the chat, and that gives your who attended.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to say. I didn't know how to say it. Thank you.
I have a question. We do all of our stuff at my school in Google Meets. Is that okay if I'm using that for my PLCs and then attaching those videos?
I don't know that we need a video of the whole meet. Okay. But I would like to see a screenshot.
Okay.
All right. And of you
set it up so that it takes attendance and I get a spreadsheet of who's there, how long they were there, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Okay.
As you heard Dr. Lim said the other night, those Google Meets and Docs and all that don't work well with TaskStream. So, we have to find a little workaround here sometimes. But, we're interested in, think about this. You've got to show that you are the lead facilitator. Okay? So how do we do that on a virtual format? It's going to be a little bit difficult, but I think you can do that. And also, if you're doing, like I say, a Google slide, whatever you're presenting, be it information about PLCs, be it norms, hey, you can present this PowerPoint that I just did for you. It's uploaded. I don't care. You certainly can use it and modify it if you want. If you feel like your PLC needs a little introduction. I don't know where you are with PLCs. But, we need to see what the evidence that you are leading that PLC. Does that help, Tasha?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions about task 1 before we move on? Does everybody understand what is due by Sunday of this week for us to review, for Dr. Revis and me to review?
Can I just reiterate it to make sure I understand? So we are reaching out to our principal, getting an affirmative, conducting a meeting before Sunday in which it's going to be an organizational meeting. And we're going to have our PLC members formed already. And then we need to complete the template for task 1, which is being submitted for instructor and peer review on Sunday. That includes our research and our profile for our school.
Right. Jenna, okay. That's a good question. That leads into this. I've pulled up the template. And again, remember, you will start out with your name here. That's the only thing you do on that first page. You will put Jenna and your last name there. That's all you do. Remember, we said that if it's in yellow, that means you've got to write something. That indicates a narrative. If it's in red, that is just simply a reminder. You do whatever it says to do, and then you delete the text. If it's in black, it stays. Now, this is for you to tell you what to do. You're actually going to get rid of this right here when you submit your work. That's just for your information there. Then on the template, notice, and it's highlighted in yellow just for your, that means the school profile. That means you've got to write something. That's where you tell the story about your school, okay? You write school profile, take the yellow highlighting out, then write your profile. Then you move in to task 1. All of this black stays there. Okay, then you've got task 1, or prompt 1. The black stays there. Your directions stay there. Then this is your first heading, PLC research. Take the yellow highlighting out. Then underneath that, don't worry about it. This is just telling you what to do there. You don't have the colons there. You just do PLC research. Then underneath that, you double space. Then you start writing the PLC research with the minimum of your 3 references there. Then you go to your next section. Your heading is PLC selection. Write it just like you see it and take the yellow highlighting out. Underneath that, you do what Dr. Revis told you to do about the people in your committee and whatever you've got to say about them. Then the next thing is your actual PLC meeting. That's the meeting where you talk to them about thanking them for being in your PLC. This is what our PLC is going to look like, setting the norms. The purpose of the PLC. During that time, you will establish a meeting schedule. For the next 4 weeks, we've got to meet every week. Can we meet at such and such a time? Establish a convenient time for everybody. Then after that, your heading will be references. You'll put your references there, APA style, alphabetically. After that your heading will be appendices, and you will put that there and then put your artifacts under there. And then that is task 1. That is what you will submit to us for review on Sunday night.
Guys, let me just reassure you. When you turn in this first draft, it's a draft.
Right.
Okay? Some of you are going to get 100, and we're going to tell you, consider your peer feedback and then move on.
Right.
Some of you, it may be that.
Is that what that means, Dr. Revis?
Pardon me?
That there's grace involved with this first.
Oh, definitely. There's
okay.
grace involved all the way through this.
Oh, I love that phrase right there, that there is grace.
Because there's no way that you can't make 100 on every one of these. All right?
I remember last week you guys said not to get too far with our topic of PLC before letting you guys know. Should that be done before this? Because I didn't know how thorough we had to be with the data. I've been working with my curriculum coordinator because my principal's good with whatever we decide. But he's also out on a COVID quarantine, which has complicated things immensely, as is my principal. So we have a little cluster going on at our school right now. So it's really made things kind of difficult. But I didn't know how developed this plan had to be at this stage.
Well, you mean you've already decided what data you're going to look at?
We have been looking at the data, but I work with my curriculum coordinator on a regular basis. So, this is not like a brand new thing does that make sense what I'm saying?
And if that's the case, just kind of pretend you haven't. And when you get to that place, act like you have it and just do it. Okay. Does that make sense?
It does. So I don't have to be 2 feet in. I can be one.
No, but okay, let's
Hi, I just had one question. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Is it okay? I looked at the data that I wanted to analyze, and I was thinking about the math benchmark that students recently had taken. Is that okay, or do I need to look at EOG scores?
Let's get into task 2. And then that may answer your question. And if it doesn't, we'll answer it after we get through with going over task 2, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. let's go on into task 2. And right now, I'm just going to show you, follow the template. Again, the task 2 description, if it's in black, you write it. These are all going to be unique. And I'm just going to show you the template because I'm going to go back to our helpful hints document. You do your work based on the template. You go back to your template and you fill in the blanks with your template. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to come out of this, and then I want to show you
Can we all take a mute check, Dr. Stedman, and make sure everybody's muted?
I was muted. Okay. I'm muting everybody, Dr. Revis. Okay. Dr. Revis, unmute yourself. And again, follow the template. Follow the template, but then use the helpful hints document as a guide as you are working through the template. Now, this is where we are. We've gone over task 1, and we know that task 1 is basically just getting organized and getting an understanding of what a PLC is. Now, you're actually beginning work in your PLC, your mission is to identify the problem. So you can't just say, in your mind, you probably say, oh, I already know. You may think you know, and you may be right. But you'll be surprised once you start doing a data dig. You'll be surprised. There'll be some aha moments, and your eyes are going to open. You're going to say, I didn't realize that. Am I right, Dr. Revis? That has,
Exactly.
Our students have told us so many times. They said, Dr. Steven, I just honestly, if you would have told me differently, I wouldn't have believed you. But once they did the data dig and really got in there, they realized how, just how differently it was from their perception of things. But this,
unfortunately, we've not had data, recent data, state data, and so you're going to use your most recent state data. Now, task 2 starts with your second PLC meeting, okay?
Right.
So what you're going to do in the second meeting is, number 1, you're going to determine the strategies that you're going to use to collect your data. What data are you going to use? Okay. And I would hope that you go back and look at your last available state performance data. You can use more recent interim assessment data. Either a lot of school districts have standardized benchmark assessments. Now, whether your school district's doing them right now in the pandemic, I don't know. But I do know we still have some interim state assessments as well. So, you can always put that kind of data with it, but make sure that you have state performance data. Your evaluator will expect to see that in your paper.
And Dr. Revis, the thing is, again, some of you worry. We know that there was no testing last year. We know that you can't use what you don't have. Again, go back to what Dr. Revis said. Use the most recent data you can find and use all of it. Go back to, pull everything you can find, because you can put everything on the table. Again, the report card data, any benchmark assessment data, anything you can find that you think might help you. Just gather it, just start gathering all your stuff that you think you might can use.
And as the facilitator, as the leader of this PLC, it's probably going to fall on your shoulders, of course, that you're going to be the one to collect the data. Now, someone said they work very closely with their literacy coach. Boy, what a great resource.
Amen.
In your school who are very comfortable digging into data and understanding what the data say. So use your resources within your school. The second thing is that
Dr. Revis, let's go back up here. Again, this is your heading right here. data collection strategies. You're going to write it just like it is there, and underneath it, your narrative work is simply going to be what we just talked about. Everything that you do, all the strategies that you're going to pursue to collect the data that you're going to be working with. That's all you're doing there, talking about it. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Rabbit.
All right, the next section is the criteria and process for identifying the most pressing need. Have a brief conversation with your PLC about how are we going to come up with as a group to determine what our most pressing need is. Well, hopefully you're going to hear things like, well, we're going to look at our data and we're going to compare our students' performance to the district level performance. And in areas where we're lower, that's going to be our most pressing need. That could be what you say. But again, this is a collaborative discussion. All right.
And at this point, though, remember, at this point, and you as the leader have to guide them, they may start talking about the most pressing need. You're not ready for it yet. You need to take them back. You have to keep them focused and just say, no, we're not talking about that. All we're looking at now are the criteria and process for us to find the most pressing need. Don't let them identify the most pressing need there. You're not ready for it yet. Okay? You're going to let the baby be born before 9 months. Don't let it be born yet.
And the next session is where you start doing your collaborative data analysis. Now, again, we want to see you as the leader facilitating this discussion, but now is when you thoroughly disaggregate your data, looking at all groups and subgroups and comparing one data point to another. But this is where you're going to get into that discussion about how you collaboratively analyze your data sets.
Yeah. And again, you're simply going, your narrative work will simply be what you and the team talk about there. And it should be, again, that's the key word, collaborative. And then analyzing the data, and then collaboratively, what does everybody have to say here? You know, and the thing is, Amanda, you might see one thing, but somebody in your team may see something entirely different than the way you see it. That's the whole purpose, you know, in the team coming together. Okay, Dr. Ravis.
And then your next section is identifying your most pressing need. How did you determine it? Based on the collaborative data analysis, how did you determine what your most pressing need or needs are and why? And that's just a description of that identification and process and why.
And again, you just didn't pull something from the sky and say, oh, I know this is the problem. You have done your homework, and as a team, you can prove what you're saying. When you say this is the most pressing need, and it's based on all of the work you've done in 1, 2, and 3, you can back it up. You've got the proof. The proof's in the pudding because you've got it all back there.
Now, task 1 is all written narratively. You can put some figures in it to explain what you've done, but task 1 is all a narrative. Now, Dr. Stedman's going to go into task 2, prompt 2.
Okay. And you join in anytime, Dr. Ravis.
Okay.
Prompt 1 requires all narrative work, while prompt 2 requires graphic representation. You write about it in task 1, you show it in task 2. You're basically telling the same story, but in 2 different ways. What you're going to do is the work you've done in task 1, you will graphically represent the work done narratively in prompt 1 in the forms of charts, tables, graphs, etc. These visuals are to be used to illustrate and support the data analysis and conclusions. Now, some of that can be found in the report card, Dr. Ravis. If you go to the report card, they already have the charts and graphs and tables and all that stuff already there that you can extract that, and don't reinvent the wheel if what you need is already out there. when even with benchmark testing, um, your central office testing office, should they provide you feedback on that, and if they provide you with graphic information that interprets the test results, then by all means you can use that information. But you may be creative and you can come up with your own graphs, charts, tables, graphs, etc., to explain. But all you're doing is you're going back to task 1, and what you talked about up there, what you wrote about up there, you're going to show us a visual representation of what you wrote about is what you're going to show us down here. And all of this is going to be leading to your most pressing need. There are all kinds of visuals. I know in the well, in the teacher working condition survey, I'm thinking about that, but it's embedded in the test data as well, in the report card. And those of you that work, it's there. So, go back and look at that, pull it, and just be creative with that. And this is not just a you thing. Work with your team collaboratively to decide what they let them help you decide what this should look like here. And again, please remember that all graphics should include a narrative explanation of what is being presented. Use APA, and remember everything is identified as figures. And again, Dr. Bishop did an excellent job this evening at 6 o'clock talking about that, and she will repeat that performance again on Thursday at 6 o'clock. If you weren't with us, then she's going to go over this again. I would say I'm going to be present and accounted for there. And then again, as you did in task 1, you're going to have a reference section if applicable. You're going to have an appendices, and again, at a minimum, that's going to include your agenda and the minutes of your meeting, and anything else that you need to include as well that you would have used with task 2. Now, once task 2, prompts 1 and 2 are complete, we're not ready there yet. I'm getting ahead of it. Anyway, that's where you are, and we'll talk about more about that next week. But we wanted to go ahead and let you should always, your mind should always be a step ahead, knowing I'm working on this, but this is what's coming up next. You should always work with the next step in mind. Okay, Dr. Revis, any comments to add to what I just said on the graphic representation?
No, I think don't make it harder on yourself. These figures and graphs and charts are out there. Start with your school report card and then go from there. I think you're going to find everything you need. And remember to note your citations where these figures came from. You should be fine.
Right.
Now remember that we talked about Sunday evening coming up. You have got to turn in your task 1 for peer and instructor review. So, instructor review means that Dr. Stedman and I are going to review it. We're going to give you feedback. We'll give you a score. If I score you an 80, resubmit it until I give you a score of 100. We'll let you do that about 3 times before we kind of say move on. But don't forget, if this is the review process. So you are also going to be responsible for doing peer reviews. You have to review 2 of your classmates' work, and that's where your peer review teams come into place. You want to talk about, let's see. Let me open up that peer review template, if you don't mind, Dr. Stedman.
Okay. Let me remind them. This is in Blackboard. There's a whole section on peer review materials. This is where you're going to find everything that Dr. Revis and I are talking about now, and your Zoom teams are also listed there as well.
Let's open the one that says the feedback template, the third document there, and
The
see
template
what,
example. Okay.
yeah, let's look at an example.
Because this is the same thing that is, except there's some information filled in. Okay. This is
Yeah.
what you use. This is what you will use to do your work on. This is an empty, a blank template. Dr. Revis is going to show you one. We're going to show you one now that we filled in the blanks with some stuff.
Now I just did this one just to show you what we expect. So on Sunday night, well, I would say this, on Monday night, what you're going to do is you're going to want to go in to that discussion board and you're going to decide which two of your Zoom team members you're going to review. So template starts out in the green shaded area. Those stay the same all the way through this peer review process this semester. And those are key questions that you are going to examine when you are doing a peer review and giving feedback. Guys, I know you're masterful at giving feedback to your students, but it's a little bit different when we give feedback to peers. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that our feedback is formative and specific and kind, okay? So you can see here in this first requirement where we're talking about content, the information is aligned with the content of the course and the assignment. There was no reference to any of the class readings or textbook in your evidence. It's a factual statement. You know, I hope you don't get hurt, your feelings hurt because of things like that, but we want you to be kind and understand that's a factual statement and not, you know, just fix it. This can be fixed easily by going back and including information from those sources in your organizational analysis. Oven is a great source. So you're giving specific feedback and you're even giving them support. Offer suggestions. The next section is very similar. You are going to have to unpack these rubrics, just like you do when you teach your standard courses of study. You have to unpack the standards. Same kind of thing here. And again, you're going to give some very specific feedback. And then going on down through there.
And just remember, your feedback, you are thinking as an administrator. You're not thinking as a teacher.
You know, we see positive things written here. You give a very nice breakdown of the percentage, and it's also okay to find something wrong with it or a suggestion for improvement. This is how you get better, by taking others' feedback. But when you're giving feedback, it makes you a better consumer of the rubric and of the information.
Dr. Revis, we need to point out here, do not say none noted. Do not say here, no weaknesses are cited. You must be reflective enough to help the students see areas that they can grow in.
Exactly. And please don't put good job. No. Be specific. Tell them what they've done well and tell them where the areas for growth and improvement might be. So going on down through the rubric, you see it goes on down and it will then get to the leadership. Guys, make sure that you are clearly showing your leadership in this PLC. But again, feedback is specific. Look at the one on the mechanics and grammar. Want to recheck your APA format on your in-text citations as I see a few errors. Recheck your first and third citation. Very specific. Doesn't tell them what to do necessarily, but it pulls them back to you've got some issues here in these two citations, and so on and so forth. So we're trying to be very specific, formative, kind, but direct.
Okay. And then again, these others are pretty self-explained. Right.
Any questions on the peer feedback? Again, you got 4 or 5 peer review members. You could go ahead on Sunday, Saturday, sometime and decide this time, I'm going to review these two, and you're going to review these two, and you're going to review these two, so that you're mixing it up every time if you wish. But go ahead and decide which peers you're going to review so that come Monday, you're ready to download their work and start giving them feedback. You need to get that out of the way pretty quickly at the first of the week.
Okay, and again, remember, this is where you will find the template that you will be using. Now, Dr. Hamilton is going to do a PowerPoint presentation on this on Thursday, and you will have something that you can go back and refer to as well. We just wanted to introduce it to you tonight, knowing that this is going to be coming up next week as well. Not this Sunday night, but next Sunday night. You will be required to submit your 2 peer reviews as well. And then when you get ready, you're going to submit it. You're going to submit 4 things. You're going to submit in once I do the template, where will I submit it? Okay, let's go to the, you see here, AAPSL task for review. Now remember, this is for your peers. You're giving them feedback that should help them improve in the quality of work that they're finally going to submit to Dr. Revis and me for grade. So you click on AAPSL task for review. Okay. Okay, you're doing peer reviews for task 1 of the AAPSL. So you will click on task 1 peer review. Now this is going to be the same thing as the discussion board. It's just 2 different places to do the same thing. You will create a thread. You will put peer review 4. And again, Amanda, I'm picking on you. Amanda, when you do this, let's say Jenna's above you. Let's say you're doing Jenna's peer review. This is peer review for Jenna, blah, blah, blah. Task 1, peer review for Jenna. Okay? Then you will have saved that as a Word document. You will browse your computer. You will upload it into here, and you will submit it. It will go to discussion board. And then Jenna can look at what you have done, and she can go back and reassess her paper. Now look, we realize that all of you are pretty much in the same place. Some may be, this is to help you grow. We want your feedback to help your peers, but it's more of a growing process and a learning process for you. When Amanda does Jenna's peer review, Jenna may say, well, I don't see that. Or she may say, wow, I didn't see that, and she goes and make, but if you get the peer review and you don't think it really applies to what, you don't need to make the change. You don't have to make changes based on what your peers say. We recommend you go back and you reflect on it. The bottom line is the final assessment's going to be, or the final say is going to be what Dr. Revis and I say when you submit the work to us. This is a growing and learning process. And you're going to submit, once you submit Jenna's, then you're going to come back out and you're going to do the same thing, and you're going to submit a second one. On a second peer, you have to do, for each of your tasks, you have to do 2 peer reviews. And again,
they have to be different each time?
They don't have to be different. I'm going to tell you why. Used to, we said they did, but we're not going to penalize people for, we ask you to get your work in so that people can get their work done. But if somebody lollygags and they don't get their work turned in into the end, and that's the name you've got, then that holds you up from doing your work, Amanda, and we're not going to do that. So if you don't get your work peer reviewed because you don't get your work turned in a timely manner, then that's nobody's fault but yours, right, Dr. Revis?
I would never be that person.
Yeah,
But What if nobody picks me, Dr. Stedman? What if nobody picks me?
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying though. Yeah,
Yes.
please.
But it's okay if we don't get picked. Is my maybe I turn mine in on time, but just nobody picks me.
Yeah, but that shouldn't happen. If it happens too much, you need to let Dr. Revis and me know so we can make sure that everybody's work is getting at least a review. Okay?
That's what I'm saying. As a Zoom team, you might want to just get together and just decide who's going to review who.
Usually the teams get together and they go ahead and they set up a schedule.
Yeah.
However, that works for most of the time, but sometimes somebody in the team just does not do what they're supposed to do. Do not be held hostage. If you're assigned to that person and they don't turn their work in on time, and you just go back and pick you 2 people to review so that you can get your work done. Okay?
But they are on a Zoom team.
Yes. They should be on. If there's 5 people in your team, you're one of the 5, so there's 4 people that you'll be able to select from.
Oh, so somebody's going to pick me then.
Oh, yeah.
I missed that somewhere. Sorry.
I promise you're going to get picked.
Now let me go back and just reiterate a few things that Dr. Stedman said. If you get feedback and you don't agree with it, then it's up to you. That's your paper. It's up to you as to whether you make corrections. But if Dr. Stedman or I give you feedback and tell you need to correct something, you need to correct that. Okay?
I'm going to say amen to that, Dr. Revis.
That part's not optional. We're shooting for you to score a strong 4 when this goes into task stream for your evaluators. So, we're in the review phase, and when we tell you it's good enough to submit for final review, it's good enough to go into task stream at that point as far as we're concerned. We get you to that point. Now, hopefully, you won't get tied up into too many revisions. You may this first time. You may have to do a couple revisions. That's okay. Once you get the hang of things and get your rhythm and see the routine, then you may not have to have we may not tell you to have to do any kind of revision. You may be fine. But, it's all about, reviewing and constantly trying to get your work to a certain level where you can feel good and comfortable, and we can feel good and comfortable about the work you'll be submitting to task stream.
And let me show you one more thing before we open it up for any final questions. Now you're going to submit those two peer reviews in task screen for review for your peer reviews. But now for us at the same time, you're going to submit those to your peers, the ones that you give feedback on, but then go to AAPSL completed peer review Dropbox. The word Dropbox means that means a grade. Those same 2 that you submitted for them to look at, you're going to submit those same 2 AAPSL Task 1 peer review. This is for Dr. Revis and me.
And notice there are 2 Dropboxes because you've got 2 peer reviews.
You're going to do the same thing. You're going to submit it in. You're going to submit it in there and do the same thing. But that's going to be submitted for. That's where your grade's going to be. The other is for your peer. This is for us to give you a grade. That's the first one that Amanda did. This is the second one that Amanda did. Everybody understand?
So the peer review occurs from Sunday to next Sunday.
Yes, that's why it's so important. Let me come out of here, and I'm going to quit.
Yes, it does. But you need to quickly look at those on Monday. That needs to be kind of your to-do list for a Monday night.
Right. That's why when we get your work on Sunday night, Dr. Revis and we're actually her husband and my wife they know not to bother us on Sunday night. We're sitting at the computer, actually, literally waiting for the next person to submit work. And the reason being, we know your schedules are hectic as administrators, as teachers, as whatever you do in the schools. And we know that if we don't give you feedback Sunday night, Monday morning, that puts you behind the 8 ball to be able to move forward with the next work that you do. So unless there is an emergency beyond our control, and Dr. Revis and I work with each other even when that happens, but if there is an emergency beyond our control, we'll let you know. But otherwise, for the most part, I would say no later than lunch on Monday, Dr. Revis, they're going to have heard back from us with everything that you submitted on Sunday night.
Yes.
And that gives you the ability to take a deep breath and say, yeah, I can move on. Or if there's something that you need to work on, we're going to be specific with you, and we're going to say, we need you to go back and look at this. If you have a problem at that point, that's when Dr. Revis and I will help you one-on-one if that's what it takes at that point. I know I'm assigned to Dr. Revis's students and Dr. Revis is assigned to mine, but many times the two of us agree to just go ahead and meet together with whoever the student is so that they can know that we're both there to help them. If it comes to that, we don't have to do that a whole lot, but we want you to know that we're there if that becomes the case.
Quick question.
Okay,
So
Pam.
whenever I do my peer review next week on 2 people, I can go ahead and submit it to you. I know I have to do it on the Blackboard for my team member.
You can do it all at the same time. You submit it to them first, and then you turn around and submit it to us.
Okay, great.
Okay. Now, sometimes we will tell you, sometimes that first one, we want you to knock it out of the ballpark the first time. But sometimes we may have to tell you, you've got to be, you need to put more time into providing better feedback in a certain area. We may tell you that, the first time. But now don't, if your work is good, we're looking at so much work. Don't expect us to do a dissertation on each thing. We're going to tell you excellent work, move on to the next task. We're not going to just sit there and camp out with a lot of fluffy words that we don't have time to do. Okay, so don't expect, we'll tell you excellent work, very good work, move on to the next task. That's what you want anyway, to know that you're on target and you're doing what you're supposed to do. Okay?
In other words, we're not going to give you the depth of feedback that we're expecting you to give your classmates.
Right.
Do as we say, not as we do.
I have 2 questions. One is, when we submit the task, you don't want the entire template with that task. You just want us to copy that one task and submit that. You don't want me to do the entire, like I've saved it under my name and I'm adding to it as I write, but you don't want the whole thing every time, do you?
No, you will do that at the very, good question, Amanda. At the very end, when we tell you to put all 5 tasks together, I would keep it, that's wise for you on your end to do that, because it's going to make it so much easier at the end of the process when you have to do a final submission. But it's too much for Dr. Revis and me to have to scroll down and find all that stuff. We only want whatever task is due for that, that particular week.
And what about the reference page? Is it a rolling reference page? So is it okay for me to submit that same reference page every single time? Because I may use them.
I don't mind the reference page being a rolling reference.
Okay. And another question. I know I'm going back to task 1 and I should already be thinking about task 2. I know.
Okay. That's okay.
But I feel myself stuck in the mission of, like, our mission is to have academic growth for every student. And I don't know how much more specific to get. with that, I mean, and I'm working with a group of brand new teachers. We got a whole grade level of brand spanking new teachers. So that's one reason we picked them, because they're brand new and they need strategies in their toolbox of instructional strategies. But other than that, how much more specific do I need to get?
I think you can be as specific as, for this PLC, what is your mission? Your mission is to examine student performance data.
Okay.
And your vision is to show growth and improvement in that student performance. I mean,
so that is specific enough at this stage. Okay.
I think so, don't you, Dr. Stedman?
I do, and again, your mission, it could, to be a little more specific, your mission is to identify, as a result of the PLC, to identify, based on a data dig and the research, identify what is the most pressing need at this moment. Now, see, next semester.
Yeah, I was kind of focused more on identifying at-risk students, but that maybe sounds to identify strategies that are
right.
Would target at-risk students.
That's what I would say. Yes.
Maybe not identifying the students, but identifying the strategies.
Right. That's what you're working towards. Yeah. Well, you're actually looking to identify what population of students there's a need with, and then finding the strategies to attack the problem there. Okay, good questions. I know we're running over, but that's okay. As long as you asking questions and you hang in there, we'll hang in there with you. We want you to do well. Okay.
Dr. Stedman.
Yes.
Can you just walk through where should we turn in the task one for Sunday night?
Okay, walk through how to turn it in. Okay, let me go back and share my screen. And let me see. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Revis, talk while I pull it back up.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, one of my students this week asked me if I would take a look at some of what she wrote. And I really don't want to be unkind, but guys, I can't. We just don't have the time to take a look at partial work, because we do this revise and review process. You're going to get plenty of opportunities. I know that the first time you turn something in the semester, you're a little unsettled, but you're going to be fine. We will give you feedback, but we just don't have time to look at partial things. And, ask me specific questions, and I will be glad to answer. And I try to be I have my email so that it comes up immediately all day long. Now, there's sometimes I can't answer it, but I try to answer you very quickly. So, just ask questions as you're going through, as you're writing things. If you're not sure, you ask questions. That's what we're here for.
Okay. Raj, that's what you said. I could call you Raj, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'll have to call you Raj because I can't pronounce your name yet. But remember in Blackboard, AAPSL task. Now remember, on Sunday night, task 1 is going to be for review only. So you go to AAPSL task for review. This is the same place where this is going to discussion board. Remember? So you will go to AAPSL task 1 for peer and instructor review. And you will create a thread, and you will have saved your task 1 document on the using the template. You will save it as task 1 AAPSL review. Whatever title, task 1 AAPSL review, you will submit it. Then once you save it as a Word document, you will browse your computer, you will upload it as a document, and then you will submit it. And it will go to AAPSL task and review to the discussion board for your peers to look at it, and for either Dr. Revis or me to look at it as well. Remember, you can submit it we can tell you that it's good to go and you don't have, but if for some reason there's work that needs to be done, then you could submit back into this platform as many times as we need for you to submit it. Now, our goal is if you follow our directions and you do what you're supposed to do and you turn your work in on time, our goal is that we're going to send it back until it's 100. There's no reason for it not to be 100. The only reason it won't be 100 is for you not to do what we ask you to do. That, Raj, does that help you? Do you understand where you're supposed to put it Sunday night?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. Now, let's come out of this, and while we're here, if you'll hang with me, I promise you, I'm going to finish in just a minute. While we're here, the next week, while we're here, that same document that you submitted for review, task 1, once we say that you're through with it, that it's ready, you've looked at your peer reviews, you're satisfied with what they have said, you've made corrections from us, and we said that you can move on. This is what you're going to do. AAPSL Assignment Dropbox. This is when you don't have to correct anything else. We, Dr. Revis and I have said, you're good to go. Submit for a final grade. Now that can be any time. You know, once we said it, and you go here. You go to AAPSL Task 1 for evaluation. You can write us a love letter, tell us how much you love us and all this stuff like that. You can browse my computer. You put make sure that it's the final document that you want to be evaluated. Sometimes you have so many in there that if you rush, you'll put the wrong document in there. Make sure that what you put in there is put your AAPSL final document for evaluation, and I would save it as that. You know, whatever it is, AAPSL Task 1 final, and then you would submit it in there, put it in there, submit it. It goes to Blackboard for Dr. Revis and me for us to give you your final grade. Now,
do evidences have to be in there or just the narrative?
Do what now? The whole template. You will have filled in the blanks in that template, and you're going to put the whole template with task 1 in there with everything.
Okay.
And any evidences.
And yeah, any evidences. Everything that Dr. Revis said you need.
In the thing, right? They'll be separate attachments, correct?
Say that one more time.
Like the evidence is like the copy of my email, the copy of the agenda, those things.
They'll be saved on that Word document.
Oh, so there is a spot for them. I obviously haven't got.
Yeah, everything will be on that Word document that you submit.
Okay.
Those will typically be listed in your appendices.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now think about this.
Or shown.
If it's gone through review and Dr. Revis and I have told you what to fix and you fixed it, and then we finally told you that you're good to go, and in the review stage, we said you're good to go. When you submit it for evaluation, what do you think your score is going to be?
100.
It's going to be 100. You see, if you do what we ask you to do, and you keep up and you pace yourself, there is absolutely no reason for you not to get 100 every time. Absolutely. We've got it set up so that many students in this program each semester maximizing the number of points that they can get for every assignment. There's no reason for you not to be able to, the way we have set it up.
And let me just reiterate to you, when it's in review phase, that's what it is, review phase. But when you put it in here for final, it's final. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to put it in final until it's ready, until you're ready for that 100. Candidates who get behind have a hard time catching up. I'm sure you can think, I've seen a little bit of terror in some of your faces tonight for those of you who whose principal has not gotten back to them, so you can hold that PLC meeting. Yeah, you want to get caught up just as quickly as you can, because you know you don't want to constantly be playing catch up. Nobody likes to be in that situation. So you know, we're going to help you get caught up, but just try to get it done as soon as you can, because if you don't have completed documents on Sunday night, nobody can review your work.
And Dr. Revis, it goes back to what we told you last week. I know it's still a little bit overwhelming. After next week, and I would say next week, but the next week at the latest, all of this is you're going to look back and you're going to say, wow, look what I have accomplished. It's hard to see it now, but just remember, we've been doing this for a long, long time, and we've seen these same expressions. We've seen the anxiety. I promise you, we have not lost a student yet that would stick with us. We're going to get you to the other side. We're going to cross the Jordan. Okay, and it's 8:22. We've been on here a long time. This has been good, though. It's been good.
I think we've answered all the questions in the chat box, but does anybody else have any questions?
I have a question.
Sure, Kendra.
The links for Dr. Bishop were not posted on your page anymore. Is there going to be a link posted for Thursday?
Oh, mine, Kendra?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll check that. I'll check it.
And if Dr. Revis, if for some reason they've gone away, let me know and I'll send it back to you.
I'll check on that as soon as I eat dinner, okay?
You can actually, Dr. Revis, you can go to my course and you can pull it off of that, copy it.
True. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for making us aware of that. Okay, good night, everybody. Again, if you were not able to join Dr. Bishop's session at 6 o'clock, please don't miss that on Thursday. It's vitally important. And then we've got a good session set up for you on Thursday night as well. And I think it'll be very informative and you'll learn a lot from it. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you on Thursday. Good night, everybody.